Hi everybody, this is Courtney with Fiber Fox Studios and welcome to Mosaic Monday. This week we're going to be doing a companion pattern to last week's Merry Mosaic Trees. We're going to be doing this really cute snowflake design which is done the same exact multiple so that you can join it onto existing work or use those patterns in combination together. So this is a 14 plus 4 is our multiple on this one. If you want to do this in the round, all you're going to do is chain in the multiple of 14 and then follow the exact repeat in the video to work your in the round piece. I'm going to be teaching this flat, so keep that in mind. Flat is what we're doing here. I am going to start a new piece as well so I can show you from row, the very foundation on up, exactly what you're going to do. If you want to join on to existing work, you're just going to do a back loop only single crochet in color A and then get ready to follow the video from there. So if you want to skip forward, if you're joining on or doing something different, all the row start times are down below in the description, as well as information on in the round and what you will need to do. Main thing is, in the round is always just the exact multiple and you work the repeat given in the video in each and every stitch. You don't skip any stitches. The same stitch that you slip stitch to form your ring is your first stitch that you begin working your repeat in. And then from there, you're just slip stitching to go on and move up row by row with us. So we're going to get started by grabbing color A. You're going to at least choose 2 colors here. I'm going to be using the cream or off-white tone, or what's probably looking white on screen for you guys, for color A, and then I'm going to be using this blue yarn for my color B. So we are going to lower the camera down and get started. Down below in the description, you will find some different project ideas with the starting chains for both working a flat piece or in the round. But I have chained a total of 32 stitches here. So this is 2 multiples of 14 plus the 4 at the end. So you're going to get your starting chain ready for whatever project you would like to do. And then we're going to begin row 1 now. So if you're not ready for row 1, you may pause here and come back and meet up with me when you're ready for row 1. I'm going to begin row 1 by skipping this very first stitch and working here into the second stitch. So that's the main thing, is we always have a turning chain. So here in the very first stitch of the row, we're going under that V and doing our traditional single crochet where we work it just like normal. Now from here, for the rest of the row, we're going to work a back loop only single crochet. So we're just going to pick up the back loop and work that back loop single crochet in every single stitch. So from here throughout the rest of the tutorial, I'll just be referring to this as a single crochet. So you can pause here after you've worked all the way down your row. Your very last stitch in the row will be a traditional single crochet. So keep that in mind. First and last stitch is always worked under the V, doing a traditional single crochet. So we'll be back in just a moment for row 2, where we'll be switching over to color B. Row 2 begins now, and the repeat for row 2 is very simple. You're going to join on doing your traditional single crochet into the first stitch using color B. And then from here, all you need to do is do your single crochet in each and every single stitch all the way down the row. So that's all we need to do for the entire row. So this is another really simple row. So you may pause here and meet back up with me when you are ready for row number 3. And that's where our mosaic work is going to start. Row 3 begins now, and we are going to begin our repeat immediately. And that repeat begins for row 3 with 1 single crochet. We will now place 4 double crochets, working in the drop down method, coming down 2 rows below in the next 4 stitches. So we're going to wrap our yarn, identify our next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, picking up this front loop right there. And then we complete a normal double crochet with loose tension from here. So that's our first double crochet, and we've got to do a total of 4. There's 1. Here is number 2. number 3, and number 4. Now we're going to do 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. So we're going to identify the very next stitch and working in that back loop. There's 1, and here is number 2. Now we will do 1 double crochet right here, next stitch. Two single crochets over the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. And we will end our repeat by doing a total of 4 double crochets over the next 4 stitches. Here's 1. Number 2. Number 3. And number 4. That ends our repeat. So we're going to recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here with 1 single crochet. We did 4 double crochets, 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets, and 4 double crochets. So you're just simply going to start back over with the beginning of the repeat, which is the 1 single crochet, and keep working that exact same set of stitches on down to the end of your row. And then we'll meet back up at the end of the row so I can show you guys exactly what to do when you reach the row end. So we're back and we're here at the end of row number 3. So I've just completed a repeat. And now all I need to do is work these last 2 stitches, 1 and 2. So we know that the last stitch will always be a traditional single crochet. So this second to last stitch right here, it is our beginning of our repeat again, essentially. That's how we handle this stitch, is we start the repeat over for 1 stitch, and then we do our traditional single crochet in the last stitch. So the beginning of the repeat is a single crochet. And now we do our traditional single crochet, working under that V, and finish that out. And then I like to chain up 2, 1 and 2, and then clip my yarn and cinch that down to bind off. We're going to take a quick look at the beginning of the row as well. So I do my bind off like this, and just cinch that down to form the knot. So let's take a look at the end of our row in comparison to the beginning of our row. So this works out to be perfectly even, exact same thing going on at the beginning of the row and the end of the row when we do that repeat start for 1 stitch and then our traditional single crochet. So keep that in mind to keep the pattern even. That is why we have to do this row start for 1 stitch right here at the end of the row. If you follow that and you do that exact stitch work, whatever the repeat begins with in this second to last stitch on each row, you will always have an even beginning and end to your row. So that's how this pattern is designed, along with most of my other ones starting from about pattern number 9 forward. Row 4 begins now, and row 4 begins by joining on with color B. And now we're going to start the repeat for row number 4 immediately. And that repeat begins by doing 7 single crochets over these next 7 stitches. So we're just going to go right here into the very next stitch, picking up the back loop, and do our single crochet. So there's 1, here's number 2, number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're at this stitch right here. And this is one of our alternate stitches, or it's a different stitch way that we're going to work this stitch. So right here for this stitch, we need to create the first little leg of our snowflake. And to do that, we're going to be doing our double crochet dropping down, but we're actually going to double crochet 2 together. So what we need to do is we need to wrap our yarn as if we're going to work this very next stitch, but we are going to come down 2 rows below and 2 stitches over. So this is the stitch that we're working, and we can't do a drop down here. We're not doing it here. When the drop down is the double crochet, I mean. So we can't do our double crochet right here. We need to move down into this blue color for me, but I need to also come over to this second space that we have open. So we're going to come down here, and this is where we're picking up our loop. From here, we're going to complete part of our double crochet. We're going to leave it just like this with the 2 loops. Now we are going to wrap again, and this time we're going to work the second leg of our snowflake. So this double crochet 2 together, this is the stitch that we're working. We're going to come over here, dropping down, and we're going to go over 1 more. So we just move over the 2 spaces and come to this side and pick up this front loop. And now we're going to draw up our loop and finish out our double crochet. And we end here. We've got the 3 loops here on our hook. So we wrap and we pull through all 3. So in essence, we've done 2 stitches, but when we're working our next row, we still have just 1 stitch taken up by this stitch work. So now from here, we're going to do 6 single crochets over the next 6 stitches to end out our repeat. What we need to make sure here when we're doing this special double crochet 2 together is we need to make sure that we only use up 1 stitch back here. So this covers 1 stitch. So right here, hanging out over here to the side, partially hidden, is the single crochet, or the stitch we need to work our first of our 6 single crochets in. And I'm pointing that out because if you were to immediately start working over here, it's going to throw off your count for the whole row. Your row end won't be even. So just make sure that you take a look there, fold things back. Your double crochet 2 together still counts as only 1 stitch back here at the back side of your work. And hopefully you can see that. So make sure that this little single crochet that's hiding, you work in it to start your 6 single crochets. So there's number 2, number 3, 4, 5, and number 6. That ends our repeat for this row. So let's recap that repeat. We started out over here by doing a total of 7 single crochets, and then we did 1 double crochet 2 together by dropping down and moving over to the second space that we had available to pick up our front loop. And then we finished out this row, or this repeat, by doing 6 single crochets over the next 6 stitches. So you're just simply going to start back at the beginning of the repeat and keep working on down the rest of your row. And then we'll meet back up when you are ready to do row number 5. Keep in mind, at the end of the row, you will be picking up and doing the start of the repeat for 1 stitch, and then working your traditional single crochet in the last stitch of the row. And that's how you'll end each and every single row here. And for those of you who need to see the double crochet 2 together, here on row 4, this is another repeat of that stitch. So we're here, we have this double crochet right here. We wrap like we're doing a double crochet. We're working this stitch. So we're going to come down right here beside it and move over to the second stitch that's available. So there's this 2 front loops down here. So we come down here and we pick up the second one. So we're working at an angle. Pick that one up, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and then you're going to hold it. Now you're going to wrap your yarn again or yarn over again, and you're going to come over here to the other side of this double crochet that we're working, and we are going to come down here and we're going to move over to the second stitch that we have available, and we're going to turn and pick up that loop. Now we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we have 3 loops here on our hook, so we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And that creates our first leg of our snowflake. So we're going to look back here and make sure that this double crochet 2 together is only taking up 1 stitch. That means we have to find this stitch right here that's hiding back there to start our 6 single crochets to end the repeat. Row 5 begins now, and we begin by joining on with color A this time, and we begin our repeat immediately. That repeat begins with 2 double crochets, so we're going to be working 2 double crochets in the next 2 stitches. So we're going to identify the very next stitch, slide down, and do our first double crochet. So here's number 1. And now we need to do our second double crochet. We will now do 1 single crochet right here, very next stitch, followed by 1 double crochet, very next stitch, one single crochet right here, very next stitch, and we will do 1 double crochet right here in the very next stitch, this one right here. Oops. Now we're going to do 3 single crochets over these next 3 stitches. So right here at our very next stitch, we're just going to do a single crochet. Now we're here at the double crochet 2 together. It is 1 stitch, so we do 1 single crochet there. It's an off day for me, I'm just losing my loops. So there's 2 single crochets. Now we do our third single crochet. Now we're going to do 1 double crochet right here, very next stitch. One single crochet, very next stitch. 1 double crochet right here, very next stitch. One single crochet right here, very next stitch. And we end the repeat with 1 double crochet right here in the very next stitch. So let's recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here when we did 2 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, and we end with 1 double crochet. So you're just going to start your repeat back over doing your 2 double crochets and keep working in that exact same set of stitches on down the rest of your row, and then you'll repeat your or restart your repeat for 1 stitch at the end of the row, and then do a traditional single crochet in the very last stitch of the row to finish out. So we will be back when you are ready to move on to row number 6. Row 6 begins now, and we begin by joining on with color B, and we begin our repeat for row 6 immediately, which begins with 4 single crochets worked over these next 4 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, and number 4. Now we do 1 double crochet into the very next stitch. Two single crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's 1, 2, 1 double crochet right there into the very next stitch. Let's take a look at where we're at. As you can see, we're coming to our double crochet 2 together, and that's where we're going to pick up our front loop to do our double crochet. Now we're going to do 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. 1 double crochet here into the very next stitch. And we will end our repeat by doing 3 single crochets over these next 3 stitches. So right here, very next stitch. 1, 2, and 3. And that ends our repeat for this row. So let's take a look and recap that repeat. Our repeat began with 4 single crochets right here. We did 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet, and then we end the repeat with 3 single crochets. So we're just simply going to start our repeat back over doing the 4 single crochets immediately, and keep working that same exact set of stitches on down the rest of our row, and then we will meet back up when you are ready to move on to row number 7. Row 7 begins now by joining on with color A this time, and our repeat for row 7 begins immediately. We start out with 2 double crochets worked in the next 2 stitches. So here's the very next stitch. There's 1 double crochet. And now we will do the second double crochet. So now we're going to do a total of 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. So identify that very next stitch. There's 1, 2, and 3. Now we will do 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's 1 and number 2. One single crochet right here, very next stitch. And now we're going to do 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. One, 2. We will now do 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. And 1 double crochet right here in this very next stitch will end our repeat. So let's recap our repeat. Our repeat began over here with 2 double crochets, 3 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, 3 single crochets, and 1 double crochet. So you're just going to start your repeat back over and do that same set of stitches on down the rest of your row, and we'll meet back up when you are ready to move on to row number 8. Row 8 begins now by joining on with color B this time, and we're going to begin the repeat for row 8 immediately by doing a total of 7 single crochets over the next 7 stitches. So we are simply going to identify that very next stitch, and we begin working. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we're going to do 1 double crochet right here in the very next stitch. So as you can see, we're right here at the center of our snowflake. And we're just going to drop down 2 rows below, picking up that front loop. So there's 1 double crochet. And now we're going to end our repeat by doing a total of 6 single crochets over the next 6 stitches. So here's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and number 6 ends the repeat. Let's recap our repeat now. So our repeat for row number 8 began over here when we did 7 single crochets, 1 double crochet, and then it ends with 6 single crochets. So you're just going to start your repeat over, starting with that 7 single crochets immediately, and keep working that same exact set of stitches on down the rest of your row. A cheater method for this row is basically single crochet all the way up until you get to the center of your snowflake, and then that's where the double crochet goes. So pretty easy row to get through. So we will meet back up when you are ready for row number 9. Row number 9 begins now by joining on, this time with color A. And we begin the repeat for row 9 immediately by doing 1 double crochet right here in the very next stitch. Identify that next stitch, slide down, pick up, and finish out 1 double crochet. Now we're going to do 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's 1, and here is number 2. Now we will do 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's 1, and number 2. Now we will do a total of 5 single crochets over the next 5 stitches. So we're right here, center of the snowflake again, and we're working across this with our single crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we will do 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's 1, and number 2. Now we will end the repeat by doing 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's number 1 and number 2. So let's recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here with 1 double crochet. We then did 2 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 5 single crochets, 2 double crochets, and 2 single crochets. So you're just going to start your repeat back over by doing your double crochet just as the repeat calls for, and you will keep working that same exact set of stitches on down the rest of your row. And remember, into the row you will restart your repeat for 1 stitch, and then you will be working a traditional single crochet in the very last stitch of your row. So you may pause here and meet back up with me when you're ready for row number 10. Row 10 begins now by joining on with color B this time, and we're going to begin working our repeat immediately. So our repeat for row number 10 begins by doing 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. So we just identify and begin working our single crochet. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to do a special double crochet. That's what I'm going to call these. So we're going to be doing our double crochet. We're working right here on top of this double crochet. That's the stitch we're working. But we're going to have to drop down and go over 1, 2 stitches and work into the front loop over here. So we're going to come over here to this section and work that front loop, just like a normal double crochet. Now remember, this double crochet is this stitch right here worked. So now our next stitch is a single crochet working right there in the very next top of the next double crochet. So that is how that's going to position and look. You're going to have it at the angle. Now we're going to do a double crochet just like we have been, dropping 2 rows below. We're going to do 1 single crochet in the very next stitch. One double crochet right here in the very next stitch. One single crochet right here in the very next stitch. And 1 double crochet right here, very next stitch. Now we're going to do 1 single crochet. And now we're going to work 1 more special double crochet. So to do that, we need to wrap our yarn. This is the stitch that we're working, but we're going to come over 1, 2, and drop down here at the second. And that's the loop that we're going to pick up right there. Second one over. And then from here we finish out our normal double crochet, just as we have been. So now we need to make sure that back here on our work, we are only counting 1 stitch for this double crochet. So we make sure that we get into this little hidden stitch back here. That's where we're going to do our single crochet. And now from here, all we need to do is finish up by doing a total of 3 single crochets. We've already done 1. So we've got 1. Here's number 2. Actually, 2 ends our repeat. So let's recap our repeat real quick. Our repeat began over here when we started out the row doing the 3 single crochets. We then did 1 special double crochet, dropping down at an angle, picking up the stitch over here. And then we did 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, and then we did a special double crochet coming at an angle, coming forward basically, dropping down 2 rows below and over 2 stitches to this stitch right here to pick up our front loop and finish out our double crochet. And then we did 2 single crochets to end the repeat. So you will start back over with your 3 single crochets from this point and work in this exact same manner, and your work will look exactly like what I'm showing you here on screen. So just pause here, come back when you are ready to move on to row number 11. I'm about to show the double crochet again one more time, the special double crochet. So we are here, working this stitch, dropping down 1, 2 rows, and over. Here's our stitch to working, so we're going 1, 2 stitches over. And this is the front loop that we pick up right here. And then we finish out our double crochet like normal. And we anchor this down because this double crochet right here is this double crochet we've just worked. So go into the very next stitch to anchor it all down with our single crochet. And then from here, it's just back to the set of double crochets separated by single crochets. Now I'm going to show the double crochet, the special double crochet again, the second one for this row. So this is when you're ending the repeat. So we're going to wrap our yarn. We are working this stitch right here. This is the double crochet stitch that we're working. So this is that stitch that we need to work. We're going to come down and then we're going to go over 1, 2 stitches. And this is the front loop that we're going to pick up right here. From here, we just draw up our loop and we work a normal double crochet. And try not to let that stretch out. You don't want to stretch anything a lot. And then from here, we end our repeat by doing 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. But we go back here and we make sure that our double crochet is going to count only for 1 stitch. So that means this one right here, the single crochet, that's where we're going to begin working our 2 single crochets to end the repeat. So there's 1 and number 2. That first one kind of hides back there behind everything. Now what we need to do is finish the row. We have the 2 stitches left, so we know that we are going to begin the repeat for 1 stitch. So in our case, for this row, that is a single crochet. And now we end the row with a traditional single crochet in the very last stitch. And that is all you need to do for row number 10. And this is what your work will look like when you're finished. So now we're going to begin row number 11, and you begin row 11 by joining on with color A this time. And row 11 is a pretty simple repeat, so we're going to start that repeat immediately, and it starts with 1 single crochet right here in the very next stitch. So we're just going to find our back loop, pick that up, 1 single crochet. Now we do 1 double crochet, very next stitch. Now we're going to do 11 single crochets over the next 11 stitches. So right here, very next stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Now we will do 1 double crochet to end our repeat. So right here, very next stitch, we complete our double crochet to end the repeat for row number 11. So now let's recap the repeat. Our repeat began over here with 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 11 single crochets, 1 double crochet ends the repeat. So you'll just immediately start back over the repeat with the 1 single crochet and keep working that same set of stitches on down the rest of your row. And then we will meet back up when you are ready to move on to row number 12. Row 12 begins now, and row 12 begins by joining on with color B this time. And we are going to begin the repeat for row 12 immediately. And that repeat begins by doing 1 single crochet right here in this very next stitch. There's 1 single crochet. Now we're going to do one of our special double crochets. So we are working the double crochet for this stitch right here. So we're going to wrap our yarn. This is the stitch that we're working, but we're going to have to move over 1, 2 stitches and then drop down. So we'll be connecting to our other special double crochet to that front loop. So that's the loop that you pick up, and then you finish out a normal double crochet from there. Now we're going to fold back our work because we're going to next be doing a total of 3 single crochets, but we don't want to miss a stitch. So the special double crochet takes up this 1 stitch back here. So that means that this stitch that's kind of hiding, that's where we're going to begin doing our 3 single crochets. So there's 1, here's 2, next stitch, and here is number 3. Now we're going to do a double crochet. So this is just like normal, dropping down 2 rows below, picking up that front loop. So there's the double crochet. Now we're going to do 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and 1 double crochet right here into this very next stitch. Now we're going to do 3 single crochets over these next 3 stitches. There's 1, 2, and number 3. And now we need to do, to end our repeat, we're going to be doing one of our special double crochets. So we're working this stitch right here. We're going to wrap our yarn, and we are going to come back over 2 stitches. So we're working this stitch. We're going to count 1, 2, and then we're going to drop down right here. So again, we're picking up that front loop from the special double crochet, a couple rows below. Now we just finish out our double crochet, and then we are working this stitch as our double crochet. As you can see back there, there's only that 1 stitch. So this is our double crochet, and that ends our repeat. So from here, we're going to recap the repeat, and I'll show you how to start. We start the repeat with 1 single crochet. Then we did 1 special double crochet coming down 2 rows below, but over at an angle 2 stitches over. Then we did 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3. Then we did double crochet, single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet. And then we did 3 single crochets, and our repeat ends with 1 special double crochet worked 2 rows below like always, but working over 2 stitches connecting to that previous special double crochet. So that stitch took up this, and that ended our repeat. So now we're going to start the repeat over, and that repeat starts by doing the single crochet right here in this next stitch. So we're not accidentally going into the top of that double crochet from the previous row. We want to make sure we're working right there in the center. So that's our single crochet. Now we need to do our special double crochet again. So our repeat is just started over with this single crochet. So now we're working this stitch right here. We're going to work our special double crochet. So here's the stitch that we're on. We're going to move over 1, 2 stitches, and that's where we drop down, picking up this front loop. And then we just finish out our double crochet like normal. So just like that. And now we begin doing our 3 single crochets. So we're going to make sure we don't miss a stitch. So we fold this back, take a look. This is taking up our double crochet, or our double crochet is taking up that stitch. So we make sure we go right there into the next stitch before to start our single crochet. So we're going to do a total of 3. So there's our first one. 1, 2, and 3. And then we do our double crochet, normal. Oop. Now a single crochet, very next stitch. Double crochet, very next stitch. Single crochet, and then a double crochet right here, We will now do 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and our repeat ends with 1 special double crochet. So we're working this stitch, we wrap our yarn. Now we're going to come back 1, 2 stitches, and then we drop down and pick up that front loop and finish out our normal double crochet from there. And then if you're at your end of your row, you are simply going to make sure that you count this double crochet that we've done at this slant as this stitch right here. So you would start your repeat again for 1 stitch in that very next stitch, doing your single crochet. And then you do your traditional single crochet in the last stitch of the row. And that is what your work will look like. So you can see there how we're forming our little snowflake. We're more than halfway there now. So you may pause here and come back and work the rest of your row and come back and meet up with me when you're ready for row 13. Row 13 begins now by joining on with color A this time. And we're going to begin our repeat for row 13 immediately. And that begins with 1 double crochet, worked right here. Very next stitch. Now we're going to do 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's 1, oops, and 2. Oops, try not to split your yarn. Now we're going to do 2 double crochets over these next 2 stitches. Wrap our yarn, slide down, picking up that front loop. So there's 1 double crochet, and here is number 2. Now we will do a total of 5 single crochets worked over these next 5 stitches. There's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. Now we will do 2 double crochets over these next 2 stitches. Here's number 1. And number 2. And we will end our repeat by doing 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. So we're going to identify the very next stitch, and we need to make sure we're not missing any stitches. So we're going to fold our work back, and we see 1 and 2. So we know right here is where we're going to begin our 2 single crochets. So there's 1, and here's number 2. So let's recap our repeat because it ends right there with the 2 single crochets. So our repeat began over here when we did 1 double crochet. We then did 2 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 5 single crochets, 2 double crochets, and then 2 single crochets. So you're just going to start your repeat back over immediately with the double crochet and keep working that same set of stitches on down until you end your row. And then we'll meet back up when you're ready to move on to row number 14. Row 14 begins now by joining on with color B this time, and we're going to begin the repeat for row 14 immediately, and that repeat begins with 7 single crochets worked over the next 7 stitches. So we're just going to identify our very next stitch, and then begin working our single crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we will do 1 double crochet right here in the very next stitch. That's hard enough, isn't it? 1 double crochet. And then we end the repeat by doing a total of 6 single crochets over the next 6 stitches. There's 1, number 2, number 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that ends our repeat. So we're going to recap that repeat. We began over here by doing a total of 7 single crochets, 1 double crochet, and then 6 single crochets ends that repeat. So cheater method for this row is you're doing single crochets all the way across until you get to the center of the square. That's where your double crochet is going to go each and every time. So as you can see there. So we'll be meeting back up when you're ready to move on to row number 15. Row 15 begins now by joining on with color A this time. The repeat for row 15 begins immediately, and we begin by doing a total of 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. So we're going to wrap our yarn, identify that next stitch, and begin doing our double crochets. So there's number 1, and here is number 2. We will now do a total of 3 single crochets worked over these next 3 stitches. So identify the next stitch, begin doing your single crochets. There's 1, 2, and 3. Now you will do a total of 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. So right here, dropping down, picking up that front loop. There's 1 and 2. Now you're going to do 1 single crochet right here of this very next stitch, followed by 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. So there's 1, and here is number 2. Now we will do 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then last but not least, 1 double crochet to end the repeat. That's worked right there, the very next stitch. So let's recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here with 2 double crochets. We did 3 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 1 single crochet right there at the top of our snowflake, 2 double crochets, and then 3 single crochets followed by the repeat end of 1 double crochet. So you're just simply going to start back over with your 2 double crochets and keep working that exact same set of stitches on down the rest of your row to complete row 15. And then you'll meet back up with me when you're ready to move on to row number 16. Keep in mind, end of the row, you'll have 2 stitches left. You'll restart your repeat for 1 stitch and then do your traditional single crochet in the very last stitch of the row. So we'll be back in just a moment for row number 16. Row 16 begins now, and we begin by joining on with color B this time. This is what our work is looking like after completing the first 15 rows. So we're almost to the end of the pattern, as you can probably tell by now. So we're going to begin row 16 repeat by doing 4 single crochets over these next 4 stitches. So we just simply move into position, find our next stitch, and begin doing single crochets. So here's 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Now we will do 1 double crochet right here into the very next stitch. We will now do a total of 2 single crochets over these next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. We will do 1 double crochet right here in the very next stitch. Followed by 2 single crochets over these next 2 stitches. There's 1 and number 2. Now we will do 1 double crochet right here, very next stitch. And we will end our repeat by doing a total of 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. Here's 1, 2, and number 3. Now we're going to recap our repeat. The repeat began over here with a total of 4 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet right there in the center of the snowflake, 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet, and 3 single crochets ends the repeat. So you're just going to start your repeat back over doing your 4 single crochets and complete that same set of stitches on down the rest of your row. And then you'll meet back up with me when you're ready for row number 17. Row 17 begins now by joining on with color A this time. So we're going to begin the repeat for row 17 by doing 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. Just going to wrap our yarn, slide down, and complete our double crochet. There's 1, and here is number 2. Very next stitch. Now we are going to do 1 single crochet right here, very next stitch, 1 double crochet right here, very next stitch, 1 single crochet right here in the very next stitch. And then we want to do 1 double crochet right here, the very next stitch. Three single crochets over the next 3 stitches. Here's 1, 2, and 3. Now we will do 1 double crochet right here, very next stitch. I cannot stop doing this today. Okay, and then we're going to do one single crochet right here, very next stitch, one double crochet right here, very next stitch, and we will do one single crochet right here in the next stitch. And we will end the repeat by doing one double crochet right here in this stitch. So let's recap the repeat. So our repeat began over here when we did 2 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet. Then right here, top of our snowflake, we did 3 single crochets across that center, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, and we end with a double crochet. So now you're just going to start your repeat over, starting with your 2 double crochets, and keep working that same set of stitches on down the rest of your row, and then we will meet back up for row number 18. Row 18 begins now, and we're going to begin the repeat immediately after joining on with color B for row 18. So I have already joined on, and I'm going to begin the repeat, which starts with 5 single crochets worked over the next 5 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now we're going to work one of our special double crochets. So this is done by working the double crochet for the very next stitch. We're going to be moving over 2 stitches and dropping down 2 rows below. So we're going to wrap our yarn. We are working this stitch right here, so keep that in mind. This is the stitch we're working. We're going to wrap, and we are going to count over from the stitch we're working 2 stitches, so 1 and 2. And then we are going to drop down here, and this is the loop that we're picking up. So we just go ahead and pick up that loop and finish out our double crochet like normal. And try not to let it get too stretched out. Now we want to check and make sure we know where we're going to do our next stitches, which is the 3 single crochets next. We want to fold back and look back here. And we know that our double crochet is taking up 1 stitch. So this is our next stitch that we're going to begin working our single crochets in. So now we just need to work our 3 single crochets going into that little hidden stitch for the first one. So there's 1. Here's number 2. And here is number 3. So that brings us to this stitch, and now we're going to do another special double crochet. So here's the stitch that we're working. We're going to wrap our yarn, and we are just going to count back 2 stitches from the stitch we're working. So here's the stitch. Go 1, 2. That brings us right here to that center of our snowflake, and this is the loop that we're going to pick up, which is a hard angle for me. There we go. Now we complete our normal double crochet just like we would right here for that stitch. Now we are going to end the repeat by checking our count. So we're going to fold our work back. This double crochet we just did covers up 1 stitch, so we're working into the very next one. And that is where we're going to complete the end of our row by doing a total of 4 single crochets to end the repeat. So there's number 2 for me. Here's number 3. And here is number 4. So now we're going to recap our repeat. So our repeat began over here when we did a total of 5 single crochets over these first 5 stitches. And then we got here to the center of the snowflake, and that's where we began working our special double crochet, which was worked on this stitch by moving over 2 stitches and dropping down to that center of our snowflake, so that center spine. Then we did 3 single crochets, making sure that we got the hidden stitch. So 1, 2, and 3 single crochets. Then we did our special double crochet, working backwards 2 stitches, 2 rows below. So I count this as 2 rows because this white row is a row. So that's 1, and then 2 hits us on the blue row. So there we did our double crochet there, and then we ended the repeat with 4 single crochets. So you're just going to start your repeat over by doing 5 single crochets immediately. So you'll have a long stretch of single crochets in between, and then when you get here to this stitch, that's where you're going to work your double crochet, the special one, connecting over here to the top of this double crochet on the center spine of our snowflake. So hopefully that's making sense. And as always, row start times are down below in the description. So if you need to see anything again, you can always hop down there and it'll pop you back to the beginning of the repeat for the row that you select. So you can pause here and we'll be back for our final row, which is row 19 in just a moment. Row 19 is our final row. We're going to start that off by joining on with color A. So we've joined on with color A, and our repeat for row 19 starts with 1 single crochet. So right here, very next stitch, we're going to work a single crochet. Now we will do a total of 4 double crochets worked across the next 4 stitches. So we're just going to wrap our yarn, identify our next stitch, and slide down 2 rows below, and do our first double crochet. Now we have a second, third double crochet, and our fourth double crochet right here, very next stitch. Now we're going to do 2 single crochets worked over the next 2 stitches. Picking up right here, very next stitch. There's 1, and here's number 2. And right here in the center of our snowflake, we're going to do 1 double crochet. Drop down, and our front loop is in there. It's just kind of a little tucked down, but you can get it, and you'll finish out your double crochet. Now you're going to do 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. And again, this is one of those situations where you want to make sure that you know exactly where your next stitch is. So the double crochet takes up that stitch right back there, meaning that we are working this one. And that's where we're going to begin doing our 2 single crochets. So there's 1, and here's number 2. Now we will do a total of 4 double crochets to end our repeat. So right here, very next stitch, double crochet. There's 1. Here's number 2. Number 3. And number 4 to end the repeat. So now we're going to recap that repeat. Our repeat for row 19 began over here with 1 single crochet. We then did 4 double crochets, 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet in the center of our snowflake, 2 single crochets, and 4 double crochets. So you'll just start your repeat back over and begin working in the same set of stitches. So it begins with 1 single crochet, and then you'll work that same set exactly as I've given on down the rest of your row. And of course, at the row end, you will just simply start your repeat over for 1 stitch and then do a traditional single crochet under that V there in the very last stitch of the row. So I'm going to finish up this row, and then we're going to talk about repeating the pattern. For those of you who want to use this for something larger or for more repeats in a particular project. So for those of us who are going to use this particular pattern in a larger project, so we're doing multiple rows of this snowflake before moving on to something else, or even doing an entire project out of just this pattern, you are going to want to rewind back to row number 2 and work rows 2 through 19 over and over as many times as you like to reach the desired size for your project. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. If you're not already subscribed, please consider doing so. It does help me out greatly with growing the channel and continuing to put out these free patterns every Mosaic Monday. And as always, I do appreciate you guys so much. Thank you, as always, to all my longtime subscribers who watch every single video from start to finish and always leave a thumbs up. I appreciate you guys so much. If you have any questions at all about this pattern, please feel free to leave me a comment down below. And also make sure that you're checking out the description where there's lots of extra information, including those row start times to help you through using this pattern for larger projects. Until next time, bye for now.